Hey YouTube, coming at you with a deck profile. This is my Goblin Gadget deck for September 2011. Um, it's pretty complete. The only thing I'm missing is a couple staples in the extra deck, which I'll get to later. So without further ado, here you go. First up, you have Triple Goblinberg. Now, this card right here is basically a Bogart Knight for any level 4 or lower monster. When he's normal summoned, you can special summon any level 4 or lower monster from your hand, and this guy just goes to defense position. Really good with the gadgets because basically you can get a 1-for-1 Steel Swarm Roach off of that. So you run basically 2 of each, 2 green, 2 yellow, 2 red. It's pretty standard. I don't think there's anything different about that. But yeah, it sets up for a lot of 1-for-1 plays, which is amazing. Next up, you have 2 Thunder King Ryo, because you want to add a little bit of anti-meta to this deck, in my opinion, because you want to have field control. And Utopia and Steel Swarm Roach are both very potent anti-meta cards in their own, which is why this isn't straight up anti-meta gadget, and this is called Goblin gadgets. Because these replace some of the anti-meta elements of the deck in order to give you better options for the XYZ monsters, which are overall better than the anti-meta cards they replace. So yeah, Thunder King Rao is really good. You got 2 Effect Veiler, because Effect Veiler is fantastic when they go to do some big, ridiculous JD play or some, obnoxious Dark Arm play. It's just fantastic. And the other great thing about this card is you can summon it and drop a Trish when you need to, because you have a lot of level 4s in this deck. And even at 1, Trishula is very potent and can be a real big game changer. 2 Summoner Monk. Summoner Monk is fantastic in this deck. The reason being is because when you don't have a gadget in hand, you can go Summoner Monk, grab a gadget, add a gadget to your hand. Or let's say you want to have a little more field control, Summoner Monk into Thunder King Ryo. If you want to, you can even XYZ summon with them. So Summoner Monk just does a ton of work. Also, the deck has a lot of spells and traps, so you almost never have an issue with fodder for his effect. Got 1 Gorse because he's a staple now this format because of all the OTKs. Got 1 DD Warrior Lady. I may up it to 2, but for now, DD Warrior Lady does a lot of work at 1. I may change it to 2 though, just because the field removal is really great with this card. And then Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. This is the card I would replace for 9 DD Warrior Lady, but Kaiku also is fantastic this format because when he's on the field, if he does damage, you remove 2 cards from their grave, so it's great graveyard control. And on top of that, your opponent can't remove cards from neither of your graveyards. So they can't make their chaos plays, and they can't screw around with your graveyard when you do, like, Reborn or something. 3-Potted Duality, because pretty much the consistency of this card helps with you searching out stuff like your gadgets or your anti-meta elements, also with some of your spells and traps. Again, it's Potted Duality. I don't think I need that much of an explanation. Triple MST. I don't make big pushes with this deck, but it's great just to be able to move stuff off their field, and it's really good when you want to protect your summons, because people are still going to be running some back row, so this is great for back row hate of obvious reasons. 2 Smashing Ground. It's just great, especially in this deck, because not a lot of people play Stardust anymore, so Smashing Ground does a ton of work. The only problem, I think, is if they do have a Stardust on the field, but that's what I have DD Warrior Lady for, and that's what I have some of my XYZs for. So, yeah, Smashing Ground, great card, great in gadgets, because everything's a 1-for-1. Reborn, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, I think they're all staples. And 1 Book of Moon, because it's Book of Moon. Helps you, let's say you have a Ryo on the field, this card just pulls off work because you need to keep the gadget train going. My traps are a little weird. I was looking for stuff chainable to MST. I have Triple Threatening Roar. This card makes them go minus, and this card also helps you go into more Trishula plays, because yes, this deck is about XYZ summoning, but the amount of times you can go for a Trishula is amazing, especially with this card, because it keeps the monsters on the field for 1 extra turn. Also, when you're versing stuff like Lightsworn, this card's hilarious because they will mill out if they are a bad Light Swarm player, or even if they are a good Light Swarm player and they are caught off guard by this card. It's really fantastic, because when they make their big push, you go Threatening Roar, and then they have to mill 12, and then they have to mill 12 again. Having one or two of these in hand is really great. This is the awkward part. Torrential Tribute I may be taking out, but I may keep it in. Ceasefire, all I have to say is wow. At first I'm like, okay, this card's okay. I might as well put it in because I can't find Mind Crushes. Like, these two guys right here were supposed to be Mind Crush. But so far I'm thinking of just keeping it in the deck because this card does incredible amounts of burn damage, especially with everyone trying to make a bigger push than the other person. You can actually burn someone for game, late game, by having this card. It also helps with some of the annoying flip effects. Trap Does Shoot wins games. These two may be replaced with Mind Crush because Mind Crush is fantastic this format, but so far, this has been doing well for me so far. I just have to look around for Mind Crushes, and I'll try out both. Got one Solemn Judgment because it stops their plays. One Starlight Road because it's really funny, and it's so good this format. And then you have two Solemn Warning. Now, this card at first I thought was going to be bad at this format, but soon I realized that because I have all of this other stuff that baits out, you know, MSTs, just to look at a few, it's really great when they end up wasting their MSTs getting rid of these, or they waste their heavy getting rid of these, and then I can start setting this. Because Solemn Warning still wins games. It's just all dependent on pretty much if you play it the right way and you save it for the right time. My extra deck is incomplete, and I'll probably be adding stuff. I'll just mention what I'm adding. Stardust. It's a staple. Good for Starlight Road, obviously. One Bryanak. One Cataster. I may be upping it to 2. Or I may add another Librarian. Whatever I can get my hands on. They're both like the same price now. One Trishula, because Trishula is dropped all the time in this deck. Next you have 2 Steel Swarm Roach. Now, I may want to add more Synchros, but for now, 2 seems to work fine. You don't usually get it more out. You don't usually get it out more than 2 times. Sometimes you may want that third, but for the most part, you want another Synchro half the time. So I may up that. 2 Utopia. Definitely upping this card to 3. This card is incredible in this deck because you spam 2 or 3, and then you get 1 or 2 Roaches on the field while you're at it. So it's really nice when you can protect your Roach and your other cards, and then just make more XYZs out of them. And whatever if he gets, you know, his effect when he runs out of material, it's not a big deal, honestly. Especially considering how ridiculous it is when you just get another one out. And 2 Zynmaster. It's good only because when you want to do some, like, ridiculous Reborn play, like, let's say you XYZ summoned with, something like Summoner Monk or Thunder King Ryo, it's really great to know that you can just dump it right to the grave. Otherwise, the card's just another 2500 beater. So yeah, that's the deck. Rate, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, just hit me up in the description below. Thanks for watching.